Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Canadian Prairie. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Solutions. Well, the story is cold. It continues to be cold across the Canadian Prairie, and we've got a reinforcing shock coming over the weekend, bringing some of the coldest air of the season. Now, the good news, if you turn your attention to the right, temperature anomalies in the 6 to 10 day time frame, starting to see this very cold pattern begin to break. We'll first see the warm-up begin off towards the west, parts of British Columbia and western Alberta beginning to warm up during the early to middle parts of next week, and then that warm-up is expected to begin to spread across the prairie as we head through the rest of the week into next weekend. We'll talk about that in a moment. Low-ish confidence on the warm-up as far as we talk about getting further off to the east, but starting to really buy into this across the Canadian Prairie. Now, as we talk about precipitation, we are watching a disturbance move through this region right now, bringing some rain and snow to parts of northern and central Alberta. That will continue to slowly move off to the south and to the east, bringing eventually some accumulating snow to parts of western and central Alberta, and then some light accumulating snow across the rest of southern Alberta into parts of southern Saskatchewan. Now, this continues to be a very dry pattern as we talk about this very dry, cold Arctic air mass, again, just not being supportive of really significant precipitation events, unless, of course, you're talking about getting some influence here from the Pacific and the Rocky Mountains, for example, the storm system now across parts of British Columbia and Alberta. So we'll take a look at the satellite picture then as we wake up on this Friday morning. Again, several things evident. The first front that brought the first wave of Arctic air now making its way off across parts of the southern and eastern United States. You see the cloud cover and precipitation associated with that. High pressure, very cold air now situated across the Midwest into the northern plains. And then as you look off towards the Pacific, towards western Canada, we see a ridge in the jet stream flow doing something like this. That is what is helping bring some moisture then from the Pacific Ocean, ringing that up over the top of the mountains here over the Rockies, bringing that precipitation to parts of British Columbia and Alberta over the next 24 hours, and then eventually across southern Saskatchewan and Alberta over the next 24 to 48 hours. As we look at the radar right now, we are seeing some precipitation activity, some snow here falling across central and western Alberta up towards Grand Prairie, maybe a rain-snow mix as we get between Calgary and Edmonton. Also seeing some rain and snow showers here across parts of from Saskatoon down towards Regina and Brandon. So precipitation is underway, heaviest as you head off towards this region, but then sweeping down through central and southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba, at least seeing some light flurries or light snow showers as we head through the weekend. Now, as we look at the temperatures here, we are looking in Fahrenheit, but we can kind of draw the freezing line in as we talk about the 32-degree temperature line. So seeing temperatures below freezing in this region here, above freezing across central and southern Alberta. This would be where we could see some rain-snow mix over the next 12 hours or so, but eventually that cold air continuing to sink off to the south, dropping everyone below freezing. As we head into Friday night and Saturday, that would then change the snow, or the rain over to snow across this region entirely. As we look at the precipitation forecast, then starting off on Friday morning, again seeing the snow across northern Alberta, northern British Columbia, that transition line with a rain-snow mix here, or all rain across southern and central Alberta as we just get the day started, but cold air quickly moves in, changing this thing all the way over to snow by the time we get into tonight and tomorrow morning. Seeing some of the heaviest snow fall as we wake up on Saturday morning from central and western Alberta into parts of southern Saskatchewan. That's when we can expect the heaviest snowfall rates as this thing begins to drop south of the area by the time we get to Sunday night into Monday. By the time we wake up on Monday morning, the area of high pressure is starting to make its way south into the northern plains. So this on Monday into Tuesday would be when we'd expect the core of the coldest air to be situated over the Canadian Prairie into the northern plains here before it begins to sink off to the south. By the time we get to Wednesday, now the core of the area of high pressure now situated across parts of the Midwestern United States. Meanwhile, we may begin to warm up slightly here across the Canadian Prairie. So we talk about the total accumulated snow forecast for the next week, really, or for the next 3 days. I do have the week forecast here in one of the coming slides. But again, just noticing here the highest snow falling across northern British Columbia into parts of western and central Alberta. Unfortunately, this map is showing inches. I have centimeters here coming up in a moment. But noticing the cutoff here from the blue to the purple color That happens where we hit 6 inches. That would be 15 centimeters of snow. So excess of 15 centimeters, you're going to have to head north of Highway 16 in central and western Alberta, then getting into higher elevation areas off towards British Columbia. Elsewhere across the prairie, talking about the potential for some light accumulating snow, but keeping things generally below the 10 millimeter or the 10 centimeter threshold here. We'll take a look at that here in closer detail in a moment. First, teasing you with the news that everyone wants to hear, a potential warm up. Freezing it here Sunday afternoon, watching the very core of the coldest air now making its way into the Canadian Prairie, setting up here as we head into Monday and then Tuesday. Now, by the time we get to Tuesday into Wednesday, starting to see things break. I might be better off phrasing it as Sunday and Monday really being the core of the coldest air, because beginning in the west here across British Columbia into Alberta, heading in through the day on Tuesday, we do start to see that warm air begin to push into the region. Now, it struggles here as we head into mid to late week. Some areas will get closer to normal here, still dealing with pockets of colder air. But right now, if we buy into some of the trends here on some of the medium to long range guidance, it does look like we'll see the ridge begin to move off toward the east, doing something more like this, bringing some warmth back to the majority of the prairie by the time we get to next weekend. Now we're looking 7, 8, 9 days out into the future. So it's more of a tease with this pattern change than a guarantee, but I like the signs that we're seeing here. Good news for you if you live down where I live here in Illinois. The cold looks like it's going to hold on through the middle part of the month, but at the very least, when we take a look at why this is happening, again, looking at the flow of the jet stream as we head into the weekend, seeing this ridge over the Gulf of Alaska into Alaska, which is allowing the very warm air to build into that region, record highs being set in Anchorage over the last several days. Doing something like this bringing in the very core of the coldest air to this region here as we head through the weekend, but then taking a look at where we go heading into next week. We start to watch that ridge begin to shift off to the east. We do see perhaps a reinforcing shot of maybe some cooler air. I said it kind of struggles. We see a trough making its way over the top of the ridge here, getting into Tuesday and Wednesday, but taking this into the end of the week. Watching, what the picture says here for the end of the week. This will be Thursday now of next week, watching that ridge begin to move over the Canadian Prairie. That would be a warmer pattern. That's what we need to see if we're going to break this stretch of bitterly cold air across the Canadian Prairie. Now we can take a closer look, and we can look at it in the metric system here. I apologize for some of the inches here that we have to talk about with snow and precipitation. Looking at total liquid precipitation across Alberta for the next week, so taking it through Friday. If you want to head north of 20 millimeters of millimeters of precipitation, you're going to head again to the area we've been talking about, central and western Alberta. Elsewhere, talking about 5 to 15 millimeters of precipitation over the next week. Total snow accumulation over the next week, so taking it again through Friday, understanding that the bulk of this does fall here with this first storm system Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again, talking about 10 millimeters or more of precipitation across this general region here north of Highway 16, south of Highway 16 across the rest of the prairie in southern Alberta, talking about maybe 5 to 10 centimeters of snow over the next week. High temperatures for the day on Friday, again, above freezing, while we see the brief warm up here, all the way up to around 10 degrees in southern Alberta, but that cold air makes its way in overnight, dropping our low temperatures to below freezing for just about everyone except for far southern Alberta. Tomorrow afternoon, warming up only above freezing in the furthest south portion of Alberta, and again, that's going to be an early morning high temperature before the cold front makes its way through. Or I should say that's an early overnight low temperature. Temperatures will continue to crash. An early morning high temperature, I apologize. I am just tripping myself up here. An early morning high temperature on Sunday Saturday as that front makes its way in, dropping down on Saturday night into Sunday morning, anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below zero. And then your afternoon high temperature on Sunday, 10 to 15 degrees below zero. Now, as we flip it over, looking at Saskatchewan and Manitoba, total liquid precipitation through the next week, generally on the light side. You can get towards some heavier amounts here, 10 to 12 millimeters of precipitation in a corridor here across southern Saskatchewan. Elsewhere, looking at relatively light amounts here, 3 to 10 millimeters of precipitation. Snowfall, a very similar story. The heavier snow sticking off towards Alberta as we looked at, as we talk about total accumulating snow for the next 7 days, taking it all the way through Friday of next week, generally keeping things in the 3 to 9 centimeter accumulation range. Your high temperatures for the day on Friday trending warmest as you head off to the southwest, anywhere from 6 to 8 degrees below freezing as you head off north and east of Highway 16. Overnight lows tonight dropping to below freezing for just about everyone except right on the U.S. border here, where we may stick around 0 or 1 degree. Same story as Alberta. Your high temperature on Saturday will occur during the early morning hours. Saturday, just expect temperatures to fall through the day, ending up with overnight lows here Saturday night into Sunday morning, anywhere from 10 to, again, 20 below 0 as you head up toward Highway 16. Anywhere there's snow on the ground, you can expect those temperatures to really plummet. Those are the areas that you can expect those 20 to 25 degrees below 0 low temperatures. Your highs on Sunday then, with the core of the coldest air sitting over the region, afternoon high temperatures only climbing to around 10 to 13 degrees below 0. So as always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video. I also will be back to talk about the Canadian Prairie on Monday morning, and hopefully we can check in on a late week warm-up. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.